Hello everyone, my name's Mary and I'm the Director of Youth Services at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'm here to share some songs and stories with you. But why don't we start with our hello song. Hello, hello, to you and you and you. Hello, hello, to you and you and you. A big hello. Small hello, 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 to you and you and you. And welcome everyone. We're going to have some stories and songs, but the first thing we always do is the word of the week. I just crushed that paper. Or you might take a can, and if you step on it, and you'll crush it. Crush means to pulverize or deform by compressing inward, just like that. So we crushed that piece of paper. And the word of the week is crush. All right, now. We're going to do some stories, and the first story I'm going to do is all about a rainy day. One day, it was raining out. It was just pouring down. It was raining so hard, it looked like someone had a hose right outside the window and was just pouring it right at the window. And there was a little girl looking out the window. And she thought how much fun it would be to go outside and play in all those puddles and in that pouring rain. So she asked her mother if she could go out. Her mother said, well, no, you can't, because what did you do? You lost your rain hat last week. And without your rain hat, you can't go out in rain like that. Oh, girl said, oh, but look outside. Just look how much fun it would be. And her mother said, no. You have plenty of things to do in the house. You have your crayons, you have your paints, you have your pencils and pens, you have all that paper, you have your dolls, you have your games, you have all those books. You have 2 shelves of books. There are plenty of things for you to do. So you find something to do. Oh, but please, 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 I could make the best mud pies of all time out there in that rain. Mother said, no, you have to stay in. Now, I'm very busy and I have something to do. So, you find something to do. Little girl, she looked down. She said, that's a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper. It's not a mud pie. She kept looking at the rain and looking at the rain. And as she looked at the rain, she was just mindlessly folding her piece of paper. She was thinking about those puddles and getting soaking wet. And all of a sudden she looked and she thought, you know what? If I fold this paper just right, I can make myself. You know what she's going to make, don't you? She's going to make herself a rain hat. And with a rain hat, well, now she can go out and play. She had herself a rain hat. So she put on her rain hat and she went running outside. She played outside in the rain and she just had so much fun. She played in the puddles and she splashed and she had her big rubber boots and she made mud pies and she just was having so much fun. And all of a sudden, a fire truck went right by the house. So that little girl, she took off her rain hat and she folded that rain hat over and she made herself a fire helmet. So she put on the fire helmet and she went up to the first fire person she saw and she said, please, can I help put out the fire? And the firewoman said, well, of course you can, and handed her the hose. Well, she poured water on the fire and she poured water on the fire. And she poured water on the fire. Well, before you knew it, there was a flood between all the rain that was falling and all the water that she was pouring on that fire. So she very quickly took off her fire helmet and she made herself a boat. And she floated along and floated along, but there was such a flood, everything was covered. And before you knew it, the front of the boat bumped right into the school and fell off. But the boat kept floating, and it floated along and floated along and floated along. And the boat bumped right into the library and fell off. But it floated along and floated along and floated along to the bottom of the boat, straight right against the grocery store and fell out. And the boat sank. And do you think that little girl drowned? Why? Of course she didn't, because she was wearing her life vest. That's the story of the rainy day. So now it's time for a song. So why don't we do an old favorite? Why don't we do The Wheels on the Bus? The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. The lights on the bus go blink, 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 blink. The lights on the bus go blink, 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 all through the town. The doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The doors on the bus go open and shut, all through the town. The people on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. The people on the bus go up and down, all through the town. The baby on the bus goes wah, 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 wah. The baby on the bus goes wah, 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 all through the town. The parents on the bus go shh, 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 shh. The parents on the bus go shh, 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 all through the town. Now, why don't we do the popcorn song? All you need is a handkerchief or a napkin or a scarf, and it can be plain, it can have a picture on it. See, I have dogs on mine, and we'll do popcorn kernels. Are we ready? Popcorn kernels, popcorn kernels, in the pot, in the pot. Shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, till they pop, till they pop. And we'll try that one more time. Popcorn kernels, popcorn kernels, in the pot, in the pot. Shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, till they pop, till they pop. Very good. And that was our popcorn song. And we're going to go from our popcorn song to a story about Mr. Tall. Let me introduce you. This is Mr. Tall and Mr. Small. Well, Mr. Tall and Mr. Small were very good friends. They did a lot of things together. Well, this particular day, they both got home about 5 minutes apart. They lived next door to each other. Well, Mr. Tall got home first. And he said to his wife, Mrs. Tall, has the mail come? And she said, yes, as a matter of fact. I put it on the table. I never had time to really look at it. So, Mr. Tall went, and he looked at his mail. And when he looked at his mail, he said, why, you know what? I think this is an invitation. He opened it up, and it said, come to the party, come to the center. Wow, thought Mr. Tall. He looked at his wife. He said, do you think we should go? And she said, why, sure. So, Mr. Tall went to the center. And Mrs. Tall went to the center. It's easier to do if you have a table than just sitting here. Well, look at that. They both went to the center. And when they got there, they opened the door, and they opened the other door, and they went inside, and they had so much fun. There was all kinds of food. There was even popcorn. And they were singing songs, and they were dancing, and they were having a very, very good time. Meanwhile, Mr. Small, he got home. Mr. Small. And he said to his wife, Mrs. Small, he said, tell me, has the mail come? And just like Mrs. Tall, Mrs. Small said, why, yes, the mail did come, and I threw it on the table, and, well, I was in the middle of doing something, and I had a very important phone call, and so I never really looked at it. So Mr. Small went over, and he looked at the mail. And just like Mr. Tall, he said, oh, you know what? I think this is an invitation. And he opened it up, and it said, come to the party, come to the center. So, Mr. Small went to the center. And Mrs. Small went to the center. They both went right to the center. Oh, they said, we can't wait for the party. And they got to the door, and they couldn't get in. So they knocked. Nobody answered. Well, Mr. Small looked at Mrs. Small and said, I don't understand this. It said quite clearly, come to the party, come to the center. Here we are at the center, and we can't get in. Let's knock again. So they knocked again. Oh, Mr. Small, he was getting so upset that he took his fist and he banged on the door as hard as he could. And he banged so hard that he dented the door. Well, Mrs. Small, she was pretty upset too. So she took her two fists, and with her two fists, she bang, 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 banged on that door, and she dented her side of the door. Oh, it still wouldn't open. So Mr. Small, I hate to tell you this, he was so upset. He went and he kicked the bottom of the door on both sides, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, until he dented both sides of that door. Well, now there they stood. They'd been knocking on the door. They'd been banging on the door. Mr. Small had been kicking the door. And all they had was a dented door. Mr. Small looked at Mrs. Small and said, "Let's try one more time." So they went right up to the door and, oh, it was opening just a little bit. So Mr. Small, he pushed back the door as far as he could. And Mrs. Small, she took her side of the door and she pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed as far back as she could. Well, now the door was open just a little bit. So they gave it one final push. And they got to go inside. And they had so much fun. They enjoyed all the food, especially the popcorn. And they enjoyed dancing. And they enjoyed singing. But most of all, what everyone enjoyed the most was the box of presents that everyone was able to take. And that's the story of Mr. Tall and Mr. Small. Well, thank you so much for coming to hear some stories and songs today. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to end pretty much like we started, but we're going to use the goodbye song instead of the hello song. So, goodbye, goodbye to you and you and you. Goodbye, goodbye to you and you and you. Big goodbye. Small goodbye. Goodbye. No goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye to you and you and you. And thank you again for coming to hear our stories today. We really miss seeing you at the library, so we're hoping you enjoy hearing some of these stories, at least virtually. So, again, I'm Mary from the Youth Services Department of the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. And we'll be here again next week, so please tune in for music and stories. Goodbye.